Whales. They have fascinated humans for the longest time. From the story of Jonah to Moby Dick, these great leviathans have captivated the human imagination. They are some of the biggest organisms to have ever lived. All whales are classified as mammals under the order Cetacea, the same category as dolphins and porpoises. There are two suborders of whales, Mysticeti, baleen whales, and Odontoceti, toothed whales. They both evolved from archaeocetes, ancient whales which probably evolved from archaic hoofed mammals with large heads and powerful jaws, or from hippopotamids, the family of mammals modern-day hippopotami evolved from. Odontocetes and mysticetes both evolved from archaeocetes around 25 to 35 million years ago. Over time, whales have adapted to their fully aquatic environment. Their massive body size helps reduce their surface area to volume ratio, which helps them keep a constant body temperature. Their bodies are well adapted to flow through the water easily without wasting energy fighting friction. They lost their hind limbs, which may have turned into powerful tails to propel them through the water. Their forelimbs became flippers to maintain stability and help them steer through the ocean. Blowholes allow them to expel metabolic waste, as well as many other adaptations to help them control buoyancy, thermoregulate, dive, reproduce, communicate, and many other things. Their massive size and seeming abundance made many of them targets to be hunted for their oil, baleen, and other things throughout history. Whaling has had devastating effects on many species of whales. Many whales today face extinction as a direct result of overwhaling in the 18th century. It was highly unregulated until the latter part of the whaling era, before it was banned because of the major declines of whale populations and because whales were treated as products and not animals. Today we run the risk of losing these behemoths from our world, but why does that matter? In this documentary we'll be focusing on the blue whale, the right whale, and the sperm whale, and their anatomy, life cycle, behavior, ecology, and the effect of whaling on each species, and exploring what this world would be like without these majestic creatures. Blue whale, or the Balænoptera musculus, is thought to be the biggest animal to have ever lived. They weigh around 200 tons, which is the same as 33 elephants. Depending on their sex, where they live, and how much krill they eat, they can be about 80 to 100 feet long. Typically, females are larger than males. Antarctic adult males are usually around 80 feet, and Antarctic adult females are usually about 90 feet. They have a broad and flat U-shaped head and a long tapered body. They have a bluish-gray coloring when they are out of the water and a blue coloring under the water, from which they get their name. Their underbelly is yellowish from the millions of microorganisms living upon it. This is why Herman Melville, the author of Moby Dick, and many other people at the time called them sulfur-bottom whales, because their underbellies looked like they were covered in sulfur, an element that is yellow. At certain times of the year, they need to eat 4 tons of krill each day to survive. Like all baleen whales, they have 2 blowholes. Blowholes are a whale's nostril. They feed by gulping mouthfuls of water. Then, with their tongue, they push the water out through the baleen, which gets rid of most of the water but keeps the krill inside its mouth, which they swallow. They live in all oceans of the world, but they thrive in the Pacific, around southern Chile, the Gulf of California, and the Coral Triangle, the region of ocean north of Australia around the Philippines and Indonesia. They live primarily along the edges of continental shelves and ice fronts. They spend their summers feeding in the polar waters and swim to the warm equator during the winter. They swim in small pods occasionally if there's a high krill concentration, but usually alone or in pairs. They cruise the ocean at 5 miles an hour, but if they need to, they can increase their speed of up to 20 miles an hour. They have an average lifespan of about 80 to 90 years, but the oldest they have found was 110 years old. Even their babies are some of the biggest animals when they enter this world. They can be up to 3 tons and 25 feet long, which is larger than some adult whales. For each day of their first year of life, they gain 200 pounds per day. They drink only their mother's milk until they are weaned at about 8 to 12 months. Their mothers have a 12-month gestation period, and they reach sexual maturity around 6 to 10 years old. Whales are at the top of the food chain. They have no real predators, but some blue whales, usually sick or injured ones, have fallen victim to sharks and killer whales. But like almost every other species on the planet, their biggest enemies are humans. Although whaling has been made illegal, many whales nowadays are killed by getting stuck in fishing nets or by getting in collisions with large ships. Before whaling became a major industry, over 200,000 blue whales roamed the oceans at any given time. But from around 1900 to the mid-1960s, 3,600,000 blue whales were killed and they were driven to the brink of extinction. They have made only a minor recovery, and now approximately 10,000 to 25,000 blue whales are alive today, a small fraction of the 200,000. To put that into perspective, that would be as if you left the Williams School today with 240 students spread out through 6 grades, 40 students on average in each grade. And you came back around 60 years later and there were 24 to 28 students in the whole school, spread out through 6 grades, 4 to 5 students on average in each grade. The blue whale population is a tenth of what it used to be as a direct result from whaling. There are 3 distinct species of right whales: North Atlantic right whale, Pacific right whale, and Southern right whale. We will be focusing on the North Atlantic right whale. Genetic research has yielded that the Pacific and Southern right whales are separate species, and that the North Atlantic right whale, hence its name, does not occur in the Pacific. The right whale is gray, with white calluses on its head, which make it easy to identify. Like the blue whale, they are mysticetes, baleen whales, and they eat plankton and small microorganisms. They have some of the largest baleen that can be up to 8 feet long. They are around 45 to 55 feet long, but 1/3 of their body size can consist of just their enormous heads. These giants can weigh up to 70 tons, and they also have a very big girth for their length. They, as their name implies, tend to live in the North Atlantic between 30 and 75 degrees north, from Iceland to the Gulf of Mexico. They are often spotted around Nova Scotia, Canada, Cape Cod, north of the Bay of Fundy, Grand Manan Island, New Brunswick, and Florida. They spend most of their time near bays and peninsulas and in shallow coastal waters because they provide shelter, an abundance of food, and security for females who are rearing young or avoiding the mating efforts of males. They feed mainly on copepods, which are small crustaceans, krill, and euphasids. In places such as Browns Barraco Bay, the Bay of Fundy, the Great South Channel, and Cape Cod, there is abundance of copepods due to the upwellings, a flow of the cold, deep water to the surface, which are driven by tidal currents. They spend the late summer and early fall in the polar regions, and spend their winters in the warmer waters around Florida and Georgia, where they breed. At around 10 years of age, they become sexually mature. They have a gestation period of around a year and will give birth to their calves in warmer waters near Georgia and Florida. At birth, they are 15 to 20 feet long, and by 18 months, they are 40 feet long. Females can only give birth to a single calf every 3 to 4 years, and it is believed that right whales are polygamous animals. However, there does not seem to be much violence between breeding males, which is a rare behavior in mammals. Their lifespan is unknown, however they have estimated one to be around 67 years old. They are docile and playful creatures. They are not gregarious, however, but they sometimes are found in small pods of 1 to 12 whales, however, usually in pairs. They are, however, very friendly and have been known to swim with other cetaceans, dolphins, porpoises, and even other whales. They are very slow, especially for their size, and tend to skim the surface of the water, eating copepods, krill, and euphasids. They only feed if there is a high concentration of food. Since they are smaller whales compared to the blue whale, they are more prone to attacks from predators such as sharks or orca whales. To protect themselves, they form a defensive circle with their tails facing outwards. Sharks and orcas, however, were not their biggest predators. Since the 10th century, humans have been hunting right whales. They were called right whales because whalers believed they were the right whales to hunt. They were exploited for their blubber, meat, and long baleens. Since the 19th century, as many as 100,000 right whales have been killed, which has made them the most endangered species of great whales. It is believed that there are less than 300 right whales today. It is hard for the population to make a recovery because females can only give birth to a single calf every 3 to 4 years, and unlike the California condor, whales are very hard to keep and breed in captivity. This is leaving many scientists pessimistic about their chances of recovery. There are less than 300 right whales on this planet right now. That is about the same number of people that are at our school. Each student and faculty member at the Williams School represents one right whale in the entire world. The only odontocete on this list is the sperm whale. The whale's head can be over 1/3 of its body length, and it has the most asymmetrical skull of any mammal that houses the largest animal brain in terms of mass, weighing up to 20 pounds. Their massive forehead is filled with a spermaceti organ that can hold 500 gallons of spermaceti. Scientists do not completely understand the use of the organ, but there are some theories. The most accepted theory is that it helps them change their buoyancy, absorbs pressure, and adjusts their volume when they dive. Also, it may be used to focus and reflect sound for echolocation. On the left side of their enormous forehead, they have a single blowhole. Unlike baleen whales, odontocetes only have one blowhole. They have 18 to 28 functional teeth on each side of their lower jaw that fit into sockets in the upper jaw. The upper jaw also has teeth, however they are fewer, weaker, and non-functional. They have the largest gullet of all cetaceans. It is big enough to swallow a human. They are dark-colored on most of their body with a white coloring underneath, and males become paler with age. They have a blubber layer that is 35 centimeters thick to protect them from the cold temperatures of the deep ocean. They can be up to 65 feet long, with males being larger than females. The average male is usually about 50 feet, and the average female is usually around 35 to 40 feet. Although males are only a little longer than the females, they weigh significantly heavier, often 3 times as much. Males usually weigh 35 to 40 tons, while females only weigh 5 to 10 tons. Sperm whales are highly gregarious creatures with a respected hierarchical structure. The groups arrange themselves by age and sex. There can be up to 100 whales in a pod, but a more common number is about 30 whales, who are often loosely related. The groups will consist of sexually inactive males, called bachelor bulls, or they might be nursery schools, consisting of mature females and both male and female juveniles. The older, sexually active males are often solitary until breeding season. They have a polygamous mating system where they form breeding schools of 1 to 5 large males and a mixed group of females of various ages and some younger males. Unlike the right whales, they get in intense physical competitions, which frequently result in large battle scars on their foreheads. Only 10 to 25% of fully adult males are able to breed, and males don't usually start mating until their mid to late 20s. Even though they become sexually mature at about 10 years old, they need to reach a high enough social status in the breeding school. Females reach sexual maturity at 8 to 11 years. They will give birth to a single calf once every 2 to 5 years. They have a much longer gestation period than the other 2 whales, carrying their developing calves for 14 to 16 months. Newborn calves will be 15 feet long and weighing 1/25 of what their mothers weigh. They will nurse for up to 2 years. Calves are usually born in the fall because the peak of breeding season is in spring. Sperm whales will live approximately 50 to 70 years. The oldest recorded lifespan was 77 years old. They swim in all oceans, usually between 40 degrees north and south, but adult males might travel beyond the 40 degrees, either north or south. The females and their calves remain at tropical or subtropical latitudes all year, while they practice communal childcare. They swim in the deep waters of the ocean, rarely traveling to the polar ice fields. They are often spotted along the equator off the coast of South America and of Africa, also in the North Atlantic, Arabian Sea, and between Australia and New Zealand, and in the western North Pacific. They are seen occasionally in the Gulf of Mexico, where they used to be most abundant. However, where they are depends on the season and their sexual and social status. Most likely to be found in waters that are inhabited by squid that are 3,000 feet deep and that have cold water upwellings. If they travel into shallow water, they are in danger of becoming stranded. They need to swim in deep waters because of their ability to dive. They have been tracked to have dived over 1.4 miles deep, and their stomach contents have been analyzed, showing that they have eaten creatures from about 2 miles deep. The longest recorded dive exceeded 2 hours. While they are down there, they feed on squid, especially giant squid, octopus, and deep-water fishes, and sometimes even sharks or skates. They eat about 3% of their body weight in squid each day. The giant squid is the biggest enemy of the sperm whale. There are many stories of deadly battles between these two. They have found sperm whales with suction cup wounds or remnants of giant squid in their stomachs. There have also been documented attacks of orcas on sperm whales, and also large sharks occasionally prey on young. Upon returning to the surface, they will blow 20 to 70 spouts of condensation of moisture combined with the mucus from their sinuses. They were once very abundant in the Gulf of Mexico, but are now rarely seen there. Although they have a very stable population, there was a large population drop from the whaling, but the sperm whale is still quite abundant. They are the most populous of great whales, with their population estimates at around 1.5 million, hundreds of times more populous than the blue whale, and thousands of times more populous than the right whale. They were one of the most hunted whales during the 18th and 19th centuries. The spermaceti in their forehead was extracted from the whales and used as a lubricant in fine machinery, as part of transmission fluid, in ointments, and when it gets cold it hardens, and the wax was used in fine smokeless candles. Unlike the blue whale, the meat of the sperm whale was not generally consumed. Their teeth were given out to the crewmen of whaling ships as rewards for exceptional work. The sailors would carve various things into the teeth, which was known as scrimshaw. Possibly the sperm whale's most valuable part was its ambergris. Ambergris is found in the intestines of the sperm whale and is often found floating on the surface of the ocean or washed ashore. Ambergris is still used today, now as a lubricant and as a base for skin creams and cosmetics. Being odontocetes, sperm whales are far more aggressive than both the blue and right whale. Therefore, they posed a much greater threat to whalers, especially when they were on small longboats trying to harpoon the whales. Whales used to be as abundant in the ocean as squirrels are in the forest, but because of the exploitation of these leviathans throughout the 18th, 19th, and earliest century by whalers, many species such as the blue and right whales face extinction. The question is, can they make a recovery? Due to their long gestation periods, ability to only give birth to one calf at a time, and long time to reach sexual maturity and social standing, most whales cannot reproduce fast enough to compensate for the heavy casualties sustained throughout the whaling period. If people, mainly fishermen and sailors, can be more cognizant of whales and their endangerment status, and take extra precaution as to not get them tangled in fish nets or hit them with their boats, then the whales will have a much greater chance at survival. The species I worry about most is the right whale, whose chance of making a recovery looks very slim. There are only a few hundred animals alive, and if they cannot find a way to keep them in captivity and breed them, I believe they will probably go extinct in the next 100 years. Blue whales, although they number in the tens of thousands, are still quite endangered, and due to their sheer size, these creatures would be near impossible to keep in captivity and to breed. Sperm whales number in the millions. They too cannot be kept in captivity because of their size and need to dive to the dark, cold depths of the ocean. You look at the predicament of these whales, and you have to ask yourself, was it worth it? Did what humanity gained from this outweigh what the cetaceans lost? Obviously, at the time, whalers did not understand how much they were truly hurting the populations of these whales. Before we can answer this question, we first need to ask, what is it that whales do? What would life be like without them? Every day, about 30 species of animals go extinct. Why does it matter if whales are one of them? Well, life is a cycle, a very delicate balance. Whales eat plankton, then they poop. Their poop helps phytoplankton grow, plankton that perform photosynthesis, converting carbon dioxide to oxygen. And as there are less whales, there's less whale poop, resulting in less phytoplankton and more carbon dioxide. One blue whale can eat 4 million krill in a day. Now, if blue whales went extinct, there would be around 20,000 less blue whales in the ocean, meaning that each day there would be 80 billion more krill in the ocean than there would be if there were 20,000 blue whales. So what? Krill are tiny. What is 80 billion? Well, that's 80 billion plus the krill that wouldn't have been eaten, all using up the oxygen in the ocean, creating more carbon dioxide in the air. So just disrupting this little balance could have dire effects. So to say whales are pretty important would be a serious understatement. However, whaling was one of the catalysts and bases of the Industrial Revolution, which is, according to many people, the turning point in history that has brought us to where we are today. So what do you think? Was it worth it?